Hey there, guys. What's up? It's me. Check. Who is it? Check. Come on. Give me something. Tell me something good. Anything? I see my levels coming up.
Yeah, he sounds good. I was just seeing how long it was.
I could have kept going.
What's going on, everyone? This is the Aggie Game Day Extra Podcast. I'm KBTX Senior Texas A&M sports writer Travis L. Brown, alongside sports director Tyler Shaw. Just back, has that post-Disney glow.
Fresh out of Florida.
Out of Florida. And then over there, chief meteorologist.
Also fresh out of Florida is Travis.
I am fresh out of Florida.
Yeah.
I saw a lot less sunlight than Tyler did. Max Crawford, chief meteorologist.
Yeah.
How you doing over there, sun boy?
Pretty good.
Yeah.
Pretty good.
Yes.
Not
Tyler,
going to Florida anytime soon.
You're not going to
But
Florida.
still pretty good.
I was in Florida for spring meetings, which we'll talk about in a little bit. But Tyler,
Yeah.
what was you did both Disney and you did the whole Orlando experience, didn't you?
Oh, we did it all. Did all four Disney parks. We did Universal. We did the new Universal park, Epic Universe.
Ooh.
Which lived up to its name.
Was
Is
it
that
was
the
epic?
one does it got
was pretty
Mario
epic.
in it?
It does.
Yeah.
Ooh, the Mario
pretty
thing
cool.
looks kind of fun.
Oh, it's great.
You got games on your phone? It got Mario in it?
Yeah. So no, they have the Nintendo World.
Neat.
They have a new Harry Potter land. So now they got 3 different ones at 3 different parks.
What's
Wow,
the
that's
like?
cool.
I know one of
So-
them is like Cog or Diagon Alley.
Yeah, so they have the old ones are Diagon Alley and then like Hogsmeade. Which is
okay.
that area outside of Hogwarts. This one
It's like
is
Northgate for wizards.
Yes, it really is. This one is the Ministry of Magic, and it's a very Paris themed. So it's like you're walking in the streets of Paris, and the ride itself, like their marquee ride there, is in the Ministry of Magic.
Is that the one where they're in like the base? I've seen the Harry Potter movies like once.
It's
Is
like
that
the
the
very
one?
masoned building with the big thing in the middle.
Yeah. Okay.
Lots of bricks and like kind of dark.
They
Yeah.
travel by flue powder to get there. You remember what flue powder, where you kind of
Yeah.
Diagonally.
So when you walk through you walk through a door and like green flames come up as you walk through, so it looks
that's
like
kinda
you were
cool.
like teleporting
How about
through
that?
by flue powder. They went all out on that one.
This is the nerdiest pod we've ever had.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
It
It sounds
was
sounds
really
very immersive.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
They didn't hold back.
That's
It
awesome.
was great.
How did going through all of this with an infant go?
Not too bad. He actually we learned I think he's a Disney baby because
Yeah.
he just kind of.
It's just like, all right.
He's also a very happy baby.
He is
Yeah.
very happy. Now he did. Now we're dealing with the post because he did get a little sick, so I think he caught something while he was there.
Got
but,
a Disney bug.
But he loved it while he was there.
Animated virus.
Yeah. Like what is it? We're talking so many movies and references here. What is the dude's name? Something Jones. Chris Rock voiced it. Bill Murray was in it.
Oh,
Osmosis Jones.
Oh yeah,
That's what it was.
that's an obscure one.
Yeah.
That's a B-sider right there.
Yeah. Bill Murray.
Yeah. Well, speaking of comedians, you were just discussing how your dream once was to be
Yeah.
on
Well,
SNL.
Yeah, SNL or some sort of like sketch comedy or just like being able to write and be in comedies and dramedies.
Did you ever do? I know like most colleges have like an improv troupe. Did you ever
No,
think about
absolutely
that?
not.
No.
That's not the kind of improv that I would have. I don't think I would have enjoyed.
Okay.
Like being told to do something or like be funny on the spot or like do an impression. Like,
So this is
I
why
do
you
not like that.
don't like Whose Line Is It Anyway?
no, I love watching Whose Line Is It Anyway, but it gives me anxiety thinking, like putting myself in that position. So like on stage improv, if I was doing
You have
on
to have
stage
a
stuff,
set that's already.
yeah, if I was doing on stage stuff, it would have to be scripted. Now, if I was like doing a show or even a movie where like I was given lines and say like do something like this and you have multiple takes to try to figure out if it's like funny or like how that works within characters and stuff, I am all for that type of improv.
Which is
But,
funny because you're
on
like the best ad-libber probably at the station.
I very much appreciate you saying that. But it's different. It's just so like being able to say something relevant to the situation and like telling a story and stuff. I feel like I'm pretty decent at, but especially from a comedy perspective, the expectation of I need to be entertained by you, and more specifically, I need to laugh at what you're saying, stresses me out so much. So, like, I don't have a problem going up and speaking to people, like public speaking. I in fact enjoy it. But if there's an expectation like this guy's going to make me laugh, that's immediately where I'm like, I don't think I can do that.
So who's funnier, you or Drew Davis?
Did he do?
He was part of the
right.
improv.
Drew Davis.
I never actually went and saw him.
This is former KBTX meteorologist.
Yeah, Drew Davis would, if he was here right now, he would absolutely 100% say that he is funnier.
Yeah.
On the spot, he probably is funnier than I am. He's got more experience doing that type of thing than I do.
He's more the improv.
Well, but
guy.
see,
But if you want me to write a screenplay for you, I think I could write a more entertaining prose than he could.
I'll debunk that theory because I did theater stuff in high school and improv stuff, and I'm the worst ad-libber of anybody at the station. So there you go.
You don't do bad at all.
Oh, I'm so bad.
No.
Well, let's go ahead and move on to the things that are important here, and that is
I'm not very funny. That's what that boils down to.
No, you're no,
I'm not.
funny.
I'm not looking for. Yes, let's move on.
Okay, this is we'll move on to the headlines.
The headlines
and get Max out of his feels over here.
Yeah.
Well, Max, you'll be proud and happy to know that Bucky stays
my boy Bucky.
On top here because while I was at SEC spring meetings,
season,
which will flip for those of you who haven't, we haven't done this in a while. We've just decided that we're going to keep this picture of Bucky McMillan on the top of the headlines for as long as we can justify it. So instead of doing the recap of the SEC spring meetings first,
this might be.
I talked to it might. I don't know if we can pull it off after this week. I talked to Bucky McMillan at SEC spring meetings about the expanded bracket, NCAA tournament bracket, and he was a little, he was like, it is what it is kind of situation. Let's hear what old Bucky McMillan had to say over there at SEC spring meetings.
I don't think it hurts SEC. It only helps SEC. We probably would have had 2 more teams in the tournament last year if the bracket was expanded last year. I personally like it the old way. That's just me because I thought getting an NCAA tournament was like such a badge of honor. Probably still will be that way, but I don't want to change too much. So I think I like the old way a little bit better.
So he said he kind of liked it how it was because they're going to do whatever they're going to do. I think we'll have time to save this for another whole podcast to talk about. But and I think we mentioned it before. But just do you stick with Bucky? I think most of us do. And yeah, it is what it is. But I kind of liked it the way it was.
Yeah, it kind of kills the luster a little bit of what the only positive I see out of it as a fan is you get basically 4 straight days.
Yeah,
and
that'll be fun.
Wall-to-wall coverage of basketball games.
Right.
So now Tuesday and Wednesday. Now those first 4 days are going to be full of games, which sure it'd be fun to watch more basketball, but you don't need a play-in tournament for a field that's already 64 teams.
No, you don't.
And I'm sorry if you're not good enough to be one of the at-large teams already, you probably shouldn't be in the tournament.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I still stand pretty firmly by the opinion that this is going to be the biggest win, obviously for TV, but for the bigger name schools that were not good enough to have an NCAA tournament resume, but they're now going to have that much more justification to get in just because of who they are, quote unquote. The Texases, the A&Ms,
Auburn.
the TCUs, the Auburns,
we talked about it when it happened. Historically, how many times A&M would make the tournament in this setting?
Yeah. And if I remember correctly, Bucky, not in this soundbite specifically in spring meetings, but when they first talked about it, he kind of had a similar answer to Elko that was just then I'll be able to say that we made the NCAA tournament more. Yeah, right? You say, yes, a coach is going to tell you, okay, sure. That means we get more postseason play a little bit more easily, I guess.
Yeah.
Should it count, though?
No.
There's always going to be
make the field of 64 for it to count.
Yeah. There's always going to be the disclaimer, the asterisk, or whatever from now on.
It goes to be, when are they going to lock the tournaments, like the tournament brackets.
Right.
Whenever they lock the tournament bracket, that means it's actually started. So
Yeah,
if the tournament, if it's not locked, and
idea.
you can still change your bracket around, then it's not the official NCAA tournament. Moving on to what really probably should have been the top story of the headlines portion of this, and that is I was down there in Destin talking with administrators, coaches across the SEC at SEC spring meetings, and of course, two biggest talking points were the expanded playoff and the new Save College Sports Act that was, filed by Senator Ted Cruz and Senator Maria Cantwell, bipartisan effort. Let's start briefly here with the expanded playoff. I feel like this is, again, another one of those things that we probably will do a whole podcast on through the summer just to kind of talk through. But just kind of on first blush, it seems like right now, after the conversations, things are stuck on, do you stick with 12 or do you expand to 24? Is there anyone here that is in favor of expanding to 24 teams in the college football playoff?
No, and I don't know why we just jumped to to 24. I think the only expansion that would maybe make kind of the happy medium is you go to 16. I like the idea of 16, but that seems to never be in the question. It's like, well, just go straight to 24.
So there's a back and forth on that. So on one, the SEC stance actually leaving it, and it was the same that they've had, is they actually do like 16. But when you talked, the conversations coming out of the Big Ten meetings and some of these other conversations is that if you're going to go to 24, you're going to have to eliminate the conference championship games. Mm-hmm. And those make like something around $250 million. And so the biggest question, if you go to 16 teams, you're not adding another round. You're doing kind of like what they did in the NCAA tournament. You're adding kind of in essence, a play-in game situation with 16 teams, and that money, especially if you don't have a team from your conference playing in those games, that's not going to recoup the amount of money that the conferences lose by doing away with the conference title game. If you go all the way to 24, that adds a whole round, and that adds probably enough money to recoup what's lost from the title game. So that's kind of why it's 12 to 24. As is with everything in this, it goes back to the money.
Yeah.
So, Max, is there any way you could justify a 2014 playoff?
No, especially because, well, I don't know. Based on what you just said, it doesn't seem necessarily like Big Ten, SEC, bigwigs are pushing for 24 just yet.
Big Ten is absolutely pushing for 24. SEC is not.
Okay, I got you. Understood. Well, I don't like either of the entities, to be completely honest with you. And I've made that, I think, pretty clear over the past several months, is that the SEC and the Big Ten both... maybe I do have a little bit of inherent bias here and say the Big Ten more so than the SEC, but they're both like actively trying to ruin college sports. In an effort to get a money grab for their institutions. Sure, they're looking out for their institutions and their bottom line, but I still hate it. And that's where I sit on that. 16, I actually don't hate. I think that is a logical next step if you are going to expand the playoff. But I don't think we have enough sample size and evidence of how well 12 works.
That's the frustrating thing about
that was Crystal Conte's whole point.
Just be... Really?
I knew you were going to love that. Yeah.
Just be patient. Like, let's just see how this plays out. I will say Sark's had something, and again, this is not so much expanded playoff, but just talking about like, hey, there has to be a set of rules, and within those set of rules, there has to be some sort of consequence for breaking the rules, because right now there's just nothing there. So I'll give Sark credit where credit is due there. But yeah, let's just stay with 12. There's so much money being made, like you mentioned, with the conference championships. Find other ways to make money than instead of just like throwing out more games that need to be played.
You hit the nail on the head, and it was Mike Elko kind of had the quotes of the SEC spring meetings, basically saying it doesn't matter what happens here because everybody's going to be working out of their own self-interest. Let's go ahead and hear what head coach Mike Elko said at a SEC spring meetings on this, because it was probably the quotes of those meetings. I didn't cut that, but I'll put it in because you reminded me that was a good thing. So we'll just cue it back up. All right, in 3, 2, won. So, yeah, I mean, he said he doesn't want a 24-team playoff. He kind of pretty jokingly said he wants a 40-team playoff because then he's never going to get fired. He'll make the playoff every year, and that's kind of what a lot of these teams, it's either about money or it's about making the playoff, which then makes everybody more money. So I don't know. I think I am kind of with him at some point. This has to centralize. And that kind of dovetails into the second part of this, the bill that was proposed by Ted Cruz and Maria Cantwell, the Save College Sports Act. There's a lot of stuff in here. We might do something. I have a whole story on KBTX.com right now from spring meetings that kind of breaks down the key points. One part of that is they say that the college football can get an even more expanded limited antitrust protection if they decide they pool their media rights and say that college football as a whole will sell off their media rights instead of the conferences in general. And they needed 75% of college football to agree. And that's a very specific number because what that means is that they need both the Big Ten, the SEC, and Notre Dame to agree to it. Notre Dame is basically the swing team in this. If Notre Dame says, we'd be good with it, then, or you get one or two, but the conferences are going to move together as a whole. So you're not going to get like Mississippi State saying yes and everyone else saying no. So Notre Dame's the swing, and Notre Dame is not going to give up their exclusive rights that they have and negotiate. And the SEC at the end of these meetings said they're not going to do that. But as pieces of that, there was measures to freeze in the conferences as they sit right now, and that the SEC and the Big Ten couldn't add any more teams and create super teams. So that only triggered if they decided to pool these media rights, and they're not going to do that. And so that tried an effort to centralize things a little bit, but it's not going to work. There's other pieces in it, like a one-time transfer rule, bringing that back, giving the NCAA or whoever wants to run this thing a little bit more teeth and some antitrust exemptions to enforce the cap and enforce tampering. One interesting, the Lane Kiffin rule to say that coaches can't move programs mid-season, and they could face penalties if teams do that. So that went to committee today. They need to get this thing moving. That was a big conversation, and really get it put to a vote and try to move it along before the August recess of Congress, because basically once the legislators get back from that month-long recess, it's campaign season and nothing's getting done until campaigns are over and everything's flipped over. So it's the next effort. There's a lot of pushback. It's probably a little bit more palatable for a decent amount of people, but there's still big chunks of it that the SEC and Big Ten don't like, and it's going to kind of go until they're willing to compromise on some stuff. I don't think we're going to get much resolution on that. Anything else? I know y'all were kind of keeping tabs on stuff. Anything stand out to y'all about what some of the stuff that came out of spring meetings?
No, of most interest to me is the one-time transfer rule. I think obviously this is a wound that cannot be addressed by just putting a Band-Aid on it, but I think that would be the biggest Band-Aid. Like if I had to just pick one thing and say, okay, this is what's going to happen right now, that's the one thing that I would pick that I think could maybe make this start to feel a little bit more like college football again, and say one-time transfer. Except like medical or hardship or, family things and stuff like that. Like obviously waivers and stuff like that. But you get once. You get one time, Travis.
Yeah. Well, and the ability,
you can get a graduate
the ability to enforce those waivers and not go to someone go to a court and say you didn't do this waiver right.
Yeah,
that's the biggest thing is the enforcing.
Not being able, it's saying that you can't go to find a judge that will make this right for you. That's the biggest piece. That's what all the coaches say is you got to have rules and rules that can be enforced, because until there's rules and rules that are going to be enforced, everybody is going to try to break the rules however they can, and if they're not scared of the rules, then there's no reason to live by the rules. The other key piece to this, talking to that, is that it's neutral on employment status for players. So it says you can't point to anything in this bill if there's a future bills or legislation or court cases involving the enforcement or the employment of players to their universities. This is just neutral. That's going to have to be its own argument. That's like one of the biggest hanging points between the two parties, is the employment status of players. If at some point it's going to be really complicated and cause its own chaos, but that's exactly how the professional sports teams work. Is they're employees of their teams and the league. They have negotiating unions and they collectively bargain, and that's how you run all of this and get the rules that we get in all of the pro sports. That's something that college athletics is fighting hard, but it is the quickest solution to get to where they are going to go. So that's enough of that for now. But I'm sure there's going to be continued headlines coming out from those, is that they try to speed that legislation through Congress. Football time, kickoff times announced. We got a start to the season here. September 5th, the first game of the year against Missouri State at Kyle Field, 6 p.m. ESPN.
Hot.
Hot, yeah.
Yes, it will be.
Not attractive.
ESPN's
but
kind of wild.
Yeah.
Like, what's the slate that weekend where they're just like, yeah, we'll put A&M on ESPN, 6 o'clock.
Yeah,
Love it. I mean, I love it, but
I think a lot of teams, the big marquees are the week 0.
Yeah.
Some of the travel games. September 12th, the Arizona State game, the big kind of marquee non-conference. That's at 11 a.m.
that's
on
the one that's gonna
ABC.
be hot.
Also hot.
I wonder, but you see, with it being on ABC, you wonder if they're already kind of has that week. They have week 0 and week 1 game day picked out, right? But not.
Yeah.
Is that the week that? That's not Ohio State, Texas is September 5th. Yeah.
Yeah, very well.
Yeah,
could
they're
be
not
in this,
September
maybe that's
12th.
So there could be the chance that they're
Fox or
looking at
ABC.
that's a game day game. With the 11 a.m. kick, you never know. And then the other one that we've known about for a while, November 27th, A&M in Texas,
and then
6:30.
also hot, probably.
Oh, I said not hot.
Oh,
not
that one's
hot, not
fair.
hot. Got
First
it.
two hot.
Yeah.
Last year I was freezing
Okay.
sitting out on that deck.
Yeah.
Kentucky had a kickoff time too, did it not? Or was it a flex? Was it already?
I think
a
it was.
I thought it was I thought it was like a 3 o'clock game.
Oh, you're right.
Yeah.
I forgot to put that into this
That's
graphic
okay.
real quick.
That's all
September
right.
19th, Kentucky is 2:30.
Hot.
Yep.
Yes.
That's a flex of ESPN or
'cause
ESPN
even
2.
Miami was an 11 o'clock kick, and it was 4 days before Christmas, and it was, Tyler,
It was hot.
it was hot.
Yep.
It was
It
very
was
windy,
hot.
and it was hot.
We didn't have many cold games last year.
No, we sure didn't, because I can remember I've got my hot weather game day outfit, and it's my trusty A&M PFG, and I wore that every single home
Yeah, I
game.
don't think I ever wore like a jacket to a
Nope.
game.
Not last season, which means,
Yeah.
of course, this season is going to be
Yeah.
like cold and rainy. But
Hey,
yeah,
take what you can get. Oklahoma, Michigan's that same week of that September 12th. So
Yeah, that's Kentucky is home. For the
Yep.
sake of the graphic, we'll
yeah, just throw that in there. I think that's
just,
actually a really solid.
UTSA Texas State is September 12th too.
Now we're cooking.
Don't think
Yeah.
that's college game day, but
the
that's
mini
fun.
Lone Star Showdown.
Yeah.
that didn't really live up to the hype last year, but I bet. it will this
but coming off the baseball fireworks as well.
year.
Yeah, that's true.
There we go. Now we're updated.
Those teams
September
do not
19th,
like
Kentucky.
each other.
2:30.
Yeah, I think that's a really solid first 3 game slate. I think you hope and somewhat expect as an Aggie fan that's going to be a 3-0, but it's not going to be like the easiest 3-0 that you've ever had. And I like how we've got our home opener in the evening, albeit with a mid-major, if you want to call it that. Bobby Petrino's old shop.
That was another thing that came out of the SEC spring meetings too. Was
No more
the
of the-
elimination of the cupcake game?
Yeah.
I'm fine with that.
No more late season non-conferences. So
The
that
only thing I liked about that was if you wanted one last shot to like go to Kyle Field and you could
Yeah.
get some cheaper tickets and like take the whole family and stuff like that, that was your best chance to do that.
that is true.
It also made it really easy as a spectator to look beyond that, because the next week was
Yeah.
Lone Star Showdown,
Right.
the big games. It made it very easy to like, hey, in 2 weeks is the big game.
There was a few years too that A&M, I think in the Jimbo and maybe late Sumlin, used that game at senior day.
yeah.
Because
I
they knew
think
they
it was
could get
Jimbo
some
that did that.
guys
Jimbo did that.
in there to it was a low stakes game
Right.
too. But I mean, going back, that was last year's was the Samford game, and that was a Samford team. If that was like had fired their coach. I mean, it looked like a team that was just trying to get out of there as fast as possible. That was one of the worst cupcake games I've ever watched, and so that was a good way to go ahead and just end that, because it was brutal. Wrapping up the headlines here. That's the wrong button. I am pushing all of the wrong buttons right now.
Well, you got Bucky showing up on the headlines.
Yeah, the headlines are about Bucky. There we go. Ryan Targach begins his stint as the Bombers head coach, former A&M 12th man for the baseball team. Tyler, you were out there in Navasota.
Yeah.
You got to talk to him for a while. What's the Targach era of the Bombers looking like?
Well, he's excited, and he said, I know this is summer league, whatever. He's like, I just want to win games, man. Like I am. He is a baseball dude, wants to be around baseball. Kind of started his career a little bit already. Took a volunteer job with Blinn, who just coming off a JUCO College World Series Finals appearance. So he said he got back, I believe, Sunday night. Met the team practice Monday, and then their first game was last night, Tuesday. So, I mean, he basically just went straight from, JUCO World Series in Colorado down here and, took off his Blinn uniform, put on his Bombers cap, and just jumped right into it.
Excuse me. Went down the wrong pipe there. That's a Blinn team that made it real far.
Yeah.
And he did a good job as a volunteer assistant there.
Yeah. So, yeah, he's excited for the summer. They seem like they got a pretty decent team. They got some bats. They can swing. They kind of did that on purpose since the ballpark they're playing is a little bit smaller. They're like,
Might as well.
Let's blast this thing. Let's get these balls out of here.
They and when I talked to Targach right after he got announced he was going to be the coach, and I mean a big part of that is they hope that they can kind of make that connection back with A&M. Rob Childers loved using the Bombers as a way to get guys reps, but they could stay here and work with their strength team, their trainers, and things like that. And so kind of drifted away from that in the Schlossnagle era, and so I think they're hoping to kind of bridge that gap a little bit more and get some more A&M guys with the Bombers.
That'd be cool. If you get a couple of familiar faces that you're used to seeing, and you get to see them, in a little summer ball.
Yeah.
I think that could be great.
Would be neat.
Over 40 years ago, my parents started C&J Barbecue, and today we continue to honor Dad's legacy with the best barbecue in the Brazos Valley. With locations on Harvey Road, Southwest Parkway, and our newest location on William Joe Bryan, we carry on our family tradition of serving up award-winning barbecue, sides, and desserts. We also offer delivery, catering, as well as custom menus and private chef services. Come visit us today for some of the best barbecue around. C&J Barbecue. The C is for Chip, the J is for Joe, and the barbecue is for you.
For this week's conversation, we're going to go back out to Bluebell Park, where Nick Kuzma and I talked through what happened to A&M in that Game 7 of the College Station Regional, and really what happened to A&M this season that gave them that regional exit. So let's go back in time a little bit outside Bluebell Park after that Game 7 for me and Nick Kuzma breaking things down.
And just like that, the 2026 Texas A&M baseball season has come to a close. A 7-1 loss in the, if necessary, game of the regional final. Travis, as we now start to, believe it or not, look back on a season that at one point really did have so much promise, I guess what are some of the thoughts that come to the forefront tonight?
I think the thing that kind of the lasting moment that's going to stick with me, and I'll probably write about this here in a little bit, is the moment that Michael Early went out to get the ball from Clayton Freshcorn and thinking, he had just given up the 3-run bomb that basically put the ice on the game, but that wasn't his fault. Yeah. And he actually got a pretty deserving standing ovation walking out because it was just a pitching staff that we talked about. This team was kind of on palliative care heading into the regional once Aiden Sims went down with injury because they just didn't have enough reliable arms to get them through any extended period of play like regional, or if they somehow were to have gotten to Omaha. So I think it is this will be a season that said the bats were pretty good, but the pitching just couldn't give them enough support at the right times to really make a big impact.
Yeah, I think we have to remember with this night, and Clayton Freshcorn does end up with a loss. I'm sure that regional ERA, because he had so few pitches come into it, ballooned because of that 3-run shot. in the 7th inning. But I think we need to remember, like, he was not supposed to be in this situation, and the reason that he was in this situation at all is simply because the Aggies had no pitching depth.
Right.
Yes, injuries affected some of it, but just poor performances all year, mainly from, until, of course, Weston Moss was really good in this regional this weekend. They did not have quality starts routinely from their Friday and Saturday starters, and that's why they ended up having Aiden Sims as essentially number one and having TBD the other 2 days of the weekend.
I mean, Shane Sadeo is another guy who they put a lot of weight on his shoulders just a year after having Tommy John to go out there and
it takes a couple of years,
right? To kind of get used to go out there and get used to being the guy, but also getting used to back to being in game situations and throwing the ball. And I think that there was some level of just not fully being back now. You could say, I mean, I was talking about this with some of the guys around here a couple days ago, and the fact that, I mean, throughout the season, he produced a lot of swing and miss.
The stuff was never not there.
It was just 1 or 2 or 6 hung pitches that turned into solo home runs. A&M's pitching staff was one of the worst at giving up home runs in the country this season, and so they're going to have to address the pitching. And we were talking about this up there a little bit too. Like when you put into a football context, if you can make a team one-dimensional, you can shut them down, and eventually, even if they're good at the one aspect of the ball they can play, you're going to be able to figure out a way to stop them. A&M got really one-dimensional with an offense that was carrying them through games, and you can't get through a baseball season being one-dimensional. There was going to be times where even the best offenses and the best pitching staffs hiccup, and you need that other phase of the game to be able to win a ball game. They just didn't have the pitching. It reminded me of the 2022 season where they swung their way to Omaha. We were talking about this before the game, but that team had better depth in the bullpen that could go out there and win a game if they needed it, which they proved they could a couple times in Omaha. This team just didn't have what it took on the mound to really support a lot of wins.
You know, I think us media pundits, we like to sort of try and put a stamp on a season of whether it was successful or not successful just hours after the last game of the year ends. And I don't know if we should really do that right now, but I think it is fair to say that this was, to an extent, because of the expectation that changed potentially. Let's say once they got through the Vanderbilt series and then all of a sudden they start the LSU sweep. Once those started happening, it started going from, this is a team that was really disappointing last year, a team that maybe will be a regional 2 seed, to a team that at one point we thought could be a top 8 national seed. So I think the expectations at one point changed. And so I think a lot of people are going to be really disappointed with the outcome. However, year 1 to year 2 of Michael Early, absolutely tremendous steps forward. But I think at the end of the day, they also are going to look back on this as a season that it's a little bit of a shame what happened because they had an offense that was ready to go to Omaha. They did not have a pitching staff that was anywhere close. Potentially, they didn't have a pitching staff that, if this was the group all year long, say Aiden Sims never pitched, this is a team that maybe doesn't make the NCAA tournament.
Yeah, this is, well, it's a group that had the bats to make it to Omaha a month ago.
That's fair.
Because it certainly started to falter there a little bit at the end of the year. You can't really say like they got tired, but I do think there is a mental strain to knowing,
and there were injuries too.
And there's injuries,
sure.
Absolutely, there was injuries, and we don't know the full extent of all those. But there is a little bit of a mental strain when you go out there and know, like, hey, we don't know what the pitching staff has.
No lead was safe this year.
Yeah, and we're going to have to be able to swing the bats. I think they were pressing a little bit tonight. Typically, Michael Early's teams are teams that work the count, get deep into counts, see a lot of pitches, work pitchers. There was a lot of swings within the first swings and bad contact within the first 3-4 pitches of at bats tonight. They were kind of getting away from their approach typically a little bit. So I think that there is going to be some disappointment. I do think, like you said, Michael Early, first time head coach coming in here, made a lot of adjustments between last year and this year. But this is an A&M program and an A&M fan base that doesn't expect to have rebuilding seasons and doesn't. They firmly expect to be in the Omaha conversation every single year. And so I think that is the standard that is going to be held moving forward. That being said, if we want to look at moving forward just a little bit, they have a pretty good core group of guys as far as the batting order and fielding goes with Nico Partita, with Jorian Wilson, with Boston Kellner, with a lot of those guys out there. And then you probably got to throw a lot of money at Clayton Freshcorn to try to see if he can come back next year.
Is he a starter next year?
He might be, depending on what they can get in the portal and what kind of arms are out there they can develop. Because this is about as bare of a cupboard as I've seen A&M's pitching staff. I mean, Rob Childress, when he was here, it was all about the pitching and stockpiling pitching. Hasn't seen that as much since Jim Schlossnagle era and the Michael Early era, but they're going to have to refill that cupboard a lot if they're going to want to be competitive moving forward.
Yeah, I think it is interesting too, and just I guess one more game point on tonight. It is interesting that so often you say, right, that the last game of this season is the microcosm of the season. It wasn't, because yes, pitching did let up a lot of runs, but at the end of the day, they just didn't swing the bats tonight.
Yeah, well, we'll close out with this with you from a perspective. This was your first A&M baseball season. Just kind of takeaways of the program, the atmosphere, and just your first experience with A&M baseball.
I really enjoyed it. Mm-hmm. No, I really enjoyed it. Like my background coming from Alabama, but not having a ton of covering SEC baseball experience. I had the football experience, I had a little bit of the basketball experience, but this was really my first time getting to dig in with the Diamond Sports, and so I had a blast, and getting to walk that half mile, whatever it was, from the parking lot to here in the stadium was maybe the only negative, because otherwise it was a lot of fun. There was a lot of wins. There was a lot of exciting wins. A lot of great performance by Aggie players throughout this entire year. And the fans showed out. And what will I remember the most is probably the Texas series. Let's be honest. I mean, that game one was
spending
so
those 9 hours with me,
and
during
then
the
that
rain
too.
delay.
We were there for the game 3, spending the 9 hours as well. But yeah, nothing but, for me as someone who covered this for the first time, nothing but positive things to say about that experience of covering it.
College baseball. Everyone knows my background. I love college baseball. It's a lot of fun. There's a purity to it. It's kind of that weird bridge between Little League and the pros. Like you get some of the goofiness, but you still get some of the really, really good athletes doing some really impressive things out there. And this is a program. Like I said, this is a program that expects to be in Omaha conversations every year, and it's always fun to kind of be around that. So
when's the portal open?
Oh, it's open.
It is open.
It's midnight last night. So Michael Early said they're looking for anybody and everybody.
He did. He did not say one position group. He said everybody.
Portal season has begun.
Wow, there it is. All right, and that's it for Travis and myself in this 2026 Aggie baseball season. A 41-16 Aggie baseball team whose season ends in the College Station Regional Final.
I think actually here we're pitching it back.
Oh, we're pitching it back.
Me,
wow.
In the future.
Oh, and I thought I cleaned that up so well. I thought that was such a beautiful.
I wanted to let you do your thing.
I did it. I wanted to let you do your thing.
But then, but
you want to toss to yourself?
But yeah, I'll toss to myself back in the studio right now in the podcast. So let's get back to me. Well, that's a big thanks to Nick Kuzma and me for helping talk through that Aggie regional loss, and thanks to Tyler Shaw and Max Crawford for breaking down some of the headlines this week. We'll be back next week with more Aggie Game Day Extra podcast, probably talking a little bit more about some of this stuff, maybe a little football, maybe a little playoff, and that big soccer game against with Argentina and Honduras in Kyle Field this week. So for all of the gang, I'm Travis Brown. This is the Aggie Game Day Extra pod. We'll see you next week.